It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Wednesday, April 1st. I'm Mac Watson. After decades as a popular oasis on I-80 in southwest Wyoming, the Little America Hotel near Green River is being torn down. Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that the general manager tells Cowboy State Daily the hotel needed so many repairs that it's not cost effective.
The guy that started this, his last name was Covey. He was a sheep herder when he got the idea to start this. He spent a long, cold winter night in that very area and said, if I make it through this night, I'm going to build a lodge so that other people don't have to go through this like I did. And so that is kind of the history, what started Little America.
The general manager tells Cowboy State Daily that the business is shifting to an RV park. Wyoming's most famous diesel mechanic, his techie son, and a third well-known mechanic who suffered federal prosecution all worry the EPA's new rule against DEF sensors could hurt engines overall. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that mechanic and Cheyenne resident Troy Lake and his son say a new rule change from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency could do more harm than good.
On Friday, the Trump administration announced that it's getting rid of DEF sensors on diesel trucks. And talking to some of Wyoming's most famous diesel mechanics, three of them, Troy and TJ Lake and Levi Kretsch, they all said, just getting rid of one part of the overall emissions system like this is actually going to cause a lot more expensive, catastrophic problems. One of them, Kretsch, said, maybe that's part of the plan to scale back emissions in a bigger way next time.
Citing the U.S. Small Business Administration, the EPA believes the new rule will save farmers over $4 billion a year and Americans almost $14 billion a year. A Powell family facing the prospect of giving up 2 of their 4 dogs because of a city ordinance made their case on Monday to change the town rule. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi reports that city residents were conflicted.
So Powell residents were conflicted about how they feel about dogs in Powell overall, let alone the proposed change to the city ordinance that only allows people to have 2 household pets. A lot of people were saying that a lot of dog owners are not very responsible. They leave waste around the community. The Pittmans moved to Powell from Texas. Powell residents are only allowed 2 household animals, and the neighbors have called the cops multiple times to complain about their dogs, mainly for noise. But they live next to a ranch that had a zebra on it in Texas. So they said, if you think dogs are noisy in Powell, you have no idea how noisy a zebra can be. Which, fun fact, it is legal to own a zebra in Wyoming.
The Pittman family moved to Powell from Texas in 2025 with their 4 dogs after their neighbors called the Powell Police Department about a noise complaint. They were informed of the ordinance that permits only 2 household pets in a single household. Mommy's dead is one of the statements a young girl made after a woman was found shot in a Riverton motel room. Cowboy State Daily's Greg Johnson reports that the girl's father, Sterling Lewis Black Jr., turned himself in 9 hours after his girlfriend's body was discovered.
His father played some role in getting him to turn himself in. His father showed up at the scene and told the police later on that, hey, he found his son in an abandoned trailer on their property and told him, hey, you got to go take care of this. You can't hide out here. So he did go into the police and turn himself in.
Black was arrested the afternoon of March 7th when he turned himself into law enforcement after his girlfriend was found dead in a room at the Old Wyoming Motel on Federal Boulevard. I'll be back with more news from Cowboy State Daily right after this.
Out here, everything takes longer. The miles in between teach patience. They teach you what's worth driving for. In Wyoming, miles are how we measure love. The distance you'll go to help a neighbor, to pick up your kid from an activity, or to visit someone you care about. That's why Hilltop Bank rides with you through every mile. We're not just close by, we're traveling the same roads. Hilltop Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Cowboy State Daily News continues now. A wave of wetter weather will ripple across Wyoming this week, bringing colder temperatures and up to 2 feet of desperately needed snow in the mountains. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi reports that meteorologists say anything we can get is a good thing.
The weather forecast for Wyoming this week is a mix of rain and snow in the lower elevations, a heavy dump of snow in the mountains, and temperatures in the 40s and 50s rather than the 70s and 80s. We are going through one of the warmest winters on record, and March was not as wet as it needed to be. So this moisture that we're going to be receiving, which will penetrate into the lower elevations, it will have enough strength to get some rain or snow or a mix into lower spots below 9,000 feet.
These weather systems will be carrying a large amount of moisture and cold air. Like most winter storms since November, the mountains will get the most from these weather systems. A retired Wyoming judge on Tuesday refused to let abortion rights advocates include a new heartbeat ban challenge into their older case. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that Judge Thomas Campbell ruled the nearly trial-ready case is too far along to introduce their latest challenge.
He'd have to go back and set a new schedule for things like evidence exchange, designating expert witnesses, anything they wanted to do to gear up toward the later stages. They'd have to go back and reset a new calendar to catch this new challenge up. And it's very different, too. The ones that are already ongoing in this case are restrictions, whereas this is an outright ban. So the state argued, hey, our justification in defending each of these sets of laws is completely different. And so the judge on those sort of pragmatic, less splashy grounds went ahead and said, no, we're not going to lump this in.
On January 6th, the Wyoming Supreme Court declared that abortion access is a fundamental health care right under the Wyoming Constitution. Wyoming Fresh Farm near Cheyenne had its cooler locked and was ordered to stop selling certain meats after a state complaint over its license. Cowboy State Daily's Kate Meadows reports that the owners argue they're protected under the Wyoming Food Freedom Act and plan to fight the restriction.
This complaint stems from a confusion over the Wyoming Food Freedom Act. The Department of Ag says that farms cannot sell meat without a license. However, David Nicely, who was one of the farm's owners, said that he understood the law to be that they can have a place for these vendors to sell their meat. Y Fresh Farms is not operating as the seller. They are only operating as the space for these other vendors to sell their meat.
David Kniesley tells Cowboy State Daily that he's requested a full complaint from the Wyoming Department of Agriculture to resolve the issue. A St. Louis boy didn't forget the rescue of his stuffed dog along I-80 last year. Cowboy State Daily's Dale Killingbeck reports that the little boy was so grateful he sent the Carbon County Sheriff a handwritten note and some gooey cakes to thank them.
The Carbon County Sheriff's Office dispatched a deputy to the site where they thought they may have lost this dog, and his name is quote-unquote dog, and they recovered him from alongside the road. And the sheriff back and told me that he packaged him back up, gave him some badges from the sheriff's office, a water bottle and some other things, and sent him back on his way to St. Louis. And so they were rewarded with these gooey cakes from this bakery in St. Louis. And the sheriff said that he didn't partake because he's training for his 100-mile ultra marathon in June, but he said the cake was quickly dispatched.
8-year-old William K. wrote the department thanking them for finding his stuffed animal. The gooey cakes were shipped from MacArthur's Bakery in St. Louis, where they are described as an award-winning and famous pastry. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting that daily newsletter button at cowboystatedaily.com. And you can watch this newscast every day by clicking subscribe on our YouTube channel or listen to us on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for watching. I'm Mac Watson for Cowboy State Daily.